Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, and today, well, some pretty big news from the development team at Microsoft Flight Simulator with computer specs being announced, and it's very, very interesting. I'm going to run through that today. Down in the comments, let me know, what do you think about these specs? Are you surprised at them? Is it what you expected? And how's your computer rig going to run it? Anyway, let's take a look at the minimum specs that they have announced. Now, they've announced three types of specs, which is pretty standard: minimum, recommended, and ideal. And I'm just going to guess that ideal specs, by the way, are the specs that they were using in all their trailers with those amazing graphics and performance and all that sort of stuff. That would be probably the logical outcome there. But let's take a look at the minimum specifications you're going to need. If we take a look at CPU, so you've got your Ryzen 3 1200 or Intel 5 4460, so nothing unbelievable there. A GPU of either a Radeon RX 570 or an NVIDIA GTX 770. So once again, from a video card point of view, I think that technology is probably maybe around 5, 6, 7 years old, something like that. I'd have to look it up. You've got VRAM 2 gigs, RAM of 8 gigs, so nothing earth-shattering there. Hard disk drive space of 150 gigabytes, which is, hey, that's definitely a chunky program. But you know, when you think about, I suppose, if you look at X-Plane, for example, as soon as you start adding in any sort of ortho for XP, then it very quickly goes past 150 gigs. So nothing really unbelievable there. But the key one here is going to be bandwidth, in my opinion, 5 megabits per second. I think most people are going to be able to handle it at that level right there. Although internet bandwidth and connections across the world can be pretty varied, so it really just depends on your locale, what's going to happen for you. So there we go. That's the minimum specs. Now, they've provided no sort of context around what will the game actually look and perform like at that level. We're just going to, usually when you're having minimum, usually around minimum specifications, it runs, and that's about it. You're not going to get all the really amazing eye candy or great performance. It's just going to be adequate, and that's probably about it. Now, if we move into the recommended spec space, and I'm personally in some of my rig is in the recommended, and some is slightly better than recommended, but not quite ideal, if that makes sense. So let's take a look at the CPU. We're up to now a Ryzen 5 1500X or an Intel i5 8400. You're then, from a graphics point of view, a Radeon RX 590 or the NVIDIA GTX 970. So a few years old, that technology there, but obviously a bit of an increase from the previous. VRAM of 4 gigs on both sides there, 16 gigabyte of RAM. I'd say that a lot of people have that. And then once again, you've got your 150 gigabyte HDD. Then you're up to a 20 megabits per second bandwidth requirement. For those parts of the world, like in New Zealand, we're fairly lucky that we've got pretty good fibre connections and high-speed broadband across the country. So most people will probably be able to get into that range. But once again, it really depends on your location and whether you're going to have access to that bandwidth. And there's obviously been a lot of talk from the development team and also in commentary around the fact that the flow of information via internet is going to somewhat supplement the requirement to have a really big, grunty, high-spec system, which suggests there's going to be quite a high reliance on having a stable and good quality internet connection. Now let's take a look at the ideal specs, and as I said earlier, my suspicion, in fact, I can almost confirm, well, I can't confirm, but I'm pretty sure that these are the specs that were used to run the promotional videos that you see out there. So this gives us a bit of an idea on what you're going to need to blow it away. So suddenly you can see from a CPU point of view, we're right up there with a Ryzen 7 Pro 2700X and then your Intel i7 9800X graphics cards, Radeon 7, and then an NVIDIA RTX 2080, which is, we're starting to get right up there now. RAM of 80, VRAM, of 8 gigs. Normal RAM there of 32 gigabytes. So, yep, definitely getting high range along here. We're talking now from a storage point of view that they're recommended SSDs. I run SSDs. I've got no HDDs actually. I prefer SSD, so I suppose quite a lot of you out there will too. And then the kicker down below there, 50 megabyte per second internet connection bandwidth. So when you take a look at that ideal spec package, obviously you're going to need a pretty grunty machine and a very decent, well, that's not very good English, a very good internet connection. So I think, I would say my guess is that a lot of people will be in that recommended. There'll be a few in the minimum specs. And quite a few in the recommended, and then the next big block of people will sort of fall somewhere between recommended and ideal. And so hopefully, I hope we get some videos out soon, just giving us an idea around the sort of performance and graphical quality you're likely to get in each area. Now, obviously, the game will need to play on Xbox to a decent sort of level of performance and graphical performance also. And so, they've had to factor that in when developing the game also. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Computer specs for Flight Simulator. Very exciting. Probably around about what was expected. They have been signaling a lot of this for quite some time. But once again, let me know, what do you think down below in the comments? And remember, if you're new to the channel, why don't you consider subscribing? Like this video if this is the sort of thing you do enjoy. And until next time, everybody, take it easy.